All right, we're going to jump in. We're going to start by saying thank you so much to RBC for supporting this programming. We're really excited to be here and take deeper dives into Krystal Ball's exhibit. You might have seen Krystal Ball already. She's appeared in a few spots around the city. In February, Harborfront had a festival for Black History Month. It was their 25th anniversary this past February, and Krystal did a big mural there that was really beautiful. This month, Krystal was also featured in the Toronto newspaper, The Star. Deborah Dundas was the writer who wrote a really compelling article about Krystal's exhibit. And Krystal also has some pieces at When Night Stared at Sea, Contemporary Caribbean Art, which is currently at PAMA, Peel Art Gallery, Museum and Archives. And that gallery is located in Brampton, Ontario. And that her art, along with the rest of the exhibit, will be up until February 21st. However, we're still exploring virtual programming with the lockdown happening. And that exhibit, When Night Stared at Sea, was guest curated by band's director Karen Carter and also Greg Manuel. So that is also another place where you can check out Krystal's work that is up right now. We're still getting the details sorted out, but Darkness and Decadence is technically at band until December 6th, but that's very tentative because of the lockdown. So we're going to explore more virtual programming options, and Karen will talk more about that at the end. And finally, I do want to say huge congratulations to the band team. They just won Best Independent Gallery Award from Now Magazine. Congratulations to Claudia, Karen, Kepra, and everybody else who I haven't met. And yeah, that's super, super, super exciting. And we're so happy to have Krystal's exhibit here right now in the flesh. So yeah, those are the announcements. And now we're gonna jump right into introducing Krystal. She is a Jamaican-born visual artist who naturally discovered her painting skills and decided to intentionally practice her artistry. Over time, she discovered her ability to speak through various textures and mediums in order to translate themes on the Black body in neo-colonial context. Krystal displays windows of personal experience through her canvases, drawing paper, textiles, and mixed media, bringing us along on a journey through space and time that begs our attention, acknowledgement, and examination. She is a passionate traveler, and her journeys to various parts of the world have only reframed and clarified her perspective on this metamorphosis cycle that we call life. She has received distinguished acclaim for her work here in Toronto, throughout the Caribbean, and back home in Jamaica. Krystal is a light to people from various walks of life, including communities who suffered from natural disasters in Dominica and children living with special needs and chronic illnesses. With her gift for teaching others how to live a life of inspiration through her artistry, she shows us that we too can make our lives our own again at any moment. Thank you for joining us, Krystal. We're here together, and tell me how you're doing. Tell me how you're feeling. You just got back from Jamaica, right?
Yes, and I'm enjoying the Canadian sunshine and warmth.
Or lack of, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's good to be back. It's very good that I got to be back during the show, and I'm just excited to have this artist talk because I have a lot to tell you guys.
Yeah, you do have a lot to unpack, and I'm really excited for everybody to hear. I loved that picture, by the way, that Claudia threw up before. It was a picture of you and your mom, right?
Yes.
When you were small. Yeah.
I think I was 2 at the time, 2 or 3.
Nice. Yeah, that was a great photo. How old were you? Makes me wonder, how old were you when you began painting and drawing?
I was very young. I started at, I think, we all doodled, so that doesn't count. But I started professionally at age 8. And by age 10, I had won my first international art competition.
My
And
gosh.
that kind of pushed me into that direction. It's just like, all right, you're on this path and you're just going to keep going for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love that when I was studying your bio and talking to you yesterday, you made it a conscious choice. Like you made it an intentional choice that you were going to hone your skills and really see where it could take you. So
Yeah.
I love knowing that. We're gonna dive right into the exhibit, and we're gonna start with your installation piece. It does stand out because there's only one installation piece in the exhibit. Uh, it is sitting downstairs among the acrylics. It's a small coffee table with a cloth over top, what is traditionally known as a bandana or madras cloth. It's the same fabric that is in your other piece, Whose Paradise. And if you can just share with us more about the teacups and what they mean within the broader context of the show.
All right. So first off, let me just say everybody should just get comfortable because I'm going to get very comfortable because this is a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So the tea placement basically just symbolizes that conversation that needs to be had because you'd have like it's a play on the colonialism background of the Caribbean, especially in Jamaica, and the fact that you would talk over tea. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just symbolizing that, hey, here is a point where you need to have a conversation. This is something you talk about.
Mm. So it's like an invitation for the
Yes,
viewers to sit down and let's really talk about
yeah,
the
what's happening?
what's
Yeah,
happening.
and the use of the bandana is just because so each island had a cloth. So when the British went into the Caribbean, um, they had an issue with clothing the enslaved Africans. So they found the cheapest thing cloth that they could find. Got it from India,
Mm-hmm.
was who was also a colony at the time. Shipped it to the Caribbean. So each island has its cloth,
Mm-hmm.
and that is just Jamaica's cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. When I see that cloth, it reminds me of in Kenya, the schoolgirls, their uniforms have it at the bottom, like the skirts, for example. Yeah, it has a lot of meaning in the African diaspora as well.
Yeah, it pretty much went all over. But you see these things all the time and you kind of don't try to trace the background of it,
Mm-hmm.
what it's originally supposed to mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why even our conversation yesterday, it was like, wow, like you're really examining things that we assume or take for granted and pulling them apart and like, what does that mean in the broader context of things? And I really appreciate that. Um, we're gonna move on to the piece that has the same bandana, the same mattress cloth. It's called Whose Paradise? The bandana surrounding this mixed media piece provides a reference to the uniforms worn in the tourism industry in Jamaica currently, right, Krystal?
That's
Currently
correct.
to this day. There is dignity in your character's pose, maybe even subtle tones of defiance. Who is she speaking for, and what is her story telling us?
So, knowing the history of the cloth, that it was something that was given to the enslaved Africans, specifically in Jamaica, there was this thing where, of course, Black people take everything, turn it into style, and made sure that it looked good.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it became an avenue of creativity
Mm-hmm.
for them because you did wrap their heads in the different styles, and it just became like a thing. It became a source of pride. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's why there's this importance around the fabric. However, I do find an issue with the fact that it's used in the tourism industry because it begs the question, who are the people coming into Jamaica for tourism? Most of the
Mm-hmm.
locals can't afford it. Who are these people serving while dressed in this fabric that originally symbolized servitude?
Mm-hmm.
Even though there is this pride and there is this respect towards the fabric, I feel like it's a little bit taboo to have hotel workers in these things, especially since they're being so severely underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I wanted to point out about that piece is that there are little plant pieces
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
surrounding the head, and those are a plant that's called shame old lady. That's what we call it back home. I actually don't know the scientific name. It's called shame old lady, and I'd play with it as a child, and I'm fascinated. So when you touch it, it closes up.
I love those. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
Yeah, I love those.
eventually it opens back up. But as an adult, I went on a plantation tour and found out something very traumatic that stuck with me is
Mm.
that those plants are completely around the perimeter of these plantations, and it's because when the slaves would try to run away, they'd brush past these plants and then they'd close up so they know what direction they went into.
Oh.
When so yeah, so it was just like a tainted childhood memory.
Mm-hmm.
um but I chose to put that there to show the hardships of the people who are serving, and to show that,
Oh,
hey,
beautiful. Yeah, we have it up on the screen now so our viewers can see what you're talking about. So if you can see the two leaves that are coming, starting from the bottom, their twig is coming from the bottom, and one is to the left side and one is to the right side. Those are the plants. Shame old lady.
yes,
Shame
shame.
old lady that shut. This is what Krystal's talking about. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
So it was just, even though it's supposed to instill pride, I also wanted to show that, hey, these people, even though they're doing their job, most of them are doing their jobs well, there is still that, like, almost iron fist where they're not being treated fairly. Most of them won't get promoted into higher positions.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that I feel like people need to have a conversation about, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially given the history, these
Mm-hmm.
are things that need to be brought up.
I agree. Because if you look at it and take it really apart and take all the pieces apart, it's kind of like what has changed. Has
Pretty much.
like nothing has really changed. It's just that we are giving you pennies and we call it legal. It's okay to pay you nothing, like practically nothing, and it's legal, so it's okay. But technically, from the hotel workers position, it's like we're still in the same position that our ancestors were back when slavery was here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Thank you for taking that deeper dive, especially into the leaves, because yeah, they stuck out to me. I was gonna ask about them. I didn't expect that answer though, but that will really that will really stick with me. It all flows into the same narrative. And now we're gonna shift gears, talk about your piece somewhere in the middle a little bit more. It's actually the one behind me. Maybe we can screen share it, but if people are able to see the one behind me, this one is called Somewhere in the Middle. Perfect, here we go. So unlike the others in this collection, the fabric on the border, it contains no Victorian flowery patterns, but architectural shapes and undertones. And even in the last piece that we examined, Whose Paradise, I believe the background was that flowery Victorian pattern, right? So, that is what is common in this acrylic collection, but this one specifically, it has the geometric shapes and the architectural undertones, and there's no lace. If you look around the oval border, there's actually no lace around the edge of the painting, unlike the others. And if you can just talk to us more about this piece, was that a deliberate choice? And did you notice that this piece contrasted the others in this way?
I actually did notice it.
Mhm.
um, I feel like it was just like a my own bias,
Mm-hmm.
because this piece is somewhere in the middle. It's usually that person who is trying to assimilate,
Mm-hmm.
um, and trying to fit in, which is also the reason for the geometric shapes and it being a little bit more straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
because there is like there are means and ways to elevate yourself in Jamaican society. There are certain conformities, and there are people who are willing to do it, who have no problem elevating and just looking down on where they're coming from. Um, but I feel like it's something that's perpetuated by society. Like, in order for you to do this, you have to um, be put into this place. However, you have to also think about that person just wanting better for themselves, just wanting to move forward. And that was the reason behind this. I specifically chose to have locks
Mm-hmm.
because of an incident that happened very recently in this year, believe it or not, where the court ruled that it was okay to ban students with locks from attending school.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is just very normal within the Jamaican school system, because, for example, there would often be an issue about me wearing my hair like this.
Wow.
Um, your hair is not supposed to be out. It has a certain texture,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a specific um, the rules are harder on Rastafarians, and it's coming from a deeper place where you had like the Corville massacre. Rastafarians just genuinely had or have a hard time in Jamaica. It's recently getting better, but the court ruling kind of set everything back where they're just like, well, you use Rastafarians for ads, to advertise tourism, to advertise various things. It looks good. It sells. It's widely accepted internationally. But once it comes to getting an education and elevating yourself, it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, and the fact that these people, regardless of all of that, still have a prominent role in Jamaican culture.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Like, this piece reminds me of the documentary, the Bob Marley documentary. I believe I watched it earlier this year. And just in my own history and my own personal music taste, and Bob Marley's story is just so inspirational to me. He was an activist of his time. And I just see him as like the poster child, like a Jamaican poster child. Like, he's just like, everything to me when it comes to Jamaica.
Yeah,
So hearing the flip side of actually being in the school system or in these, the systems of the governing class and having to play by their rules, it's like, wow, like, you're not even acknowledging the people who brought your country to the world,
yeah, pretty
on a
much.
global platform. That's so, like, fascinating to me. I'm really glad that you got to bring that conversation to the table, though, because it's very important. Uh, Now we're going to shift over to your piece, In the Shadows. And I'm so excited to talk about this piece because I know it has so much meaning to you and so much history. I'm just going to touch on, I'm sure we're going to pull it up here on the screen, but I'm just going to talk about the medium. If you see it in real life, the silhouette, it resembles a felt-like material with sparkles over top. Krystal, can you clarify? Did you purchase the felt this way with the crystals over? Sorry, with the sparkles over top, or did you just have a felt piece and then you put the sparkles over top, like with a sparkly glue kind of thing?
No, actually, I drew the silhouette and put the sparkles in place.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, so see, like, there's so many layers of intention behind these mediums. And if I can just invite you, Krystal, to talk more to us about the intersection of race and class in this piece and what they mean to you.
All right, so this piece is a little bit personal. Well, it's not a little bit personal, it's very personal. It's it was inspired by my mother because we have a very interesting relationship. No, my father, let me just give you a bit of both sides. My father is
Cuban, you told me, right?
yeah, of Cuban heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my grandfather's Latino.
Mm-hmm.
His family ran away from Cuba during the Cuban Revolution to Jamaica and settled there illegally. And then there's my mother's side, who, of course, her mother is half Indian, but her father is maroon.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with the maroon culture, but they're the first free people in the Caribbean because yeah, so they ran away to the mountains during the time of slavery and fought back against the British. So
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica was initially a Spanish colony, then the British came in. So during that transition, they ran away, and when the British came in, I was trying to like reel them back in. They're just like no, and they fought because they knew the land better than anybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
they were able to like basically climb up a waterfall in order to escape.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother has that very rich side of her heritage, of her history.
Mm-hmm.
However, um, she didn't embrace it. She
Mm-hmm.
still has issues embracing it because it's tied to being black. Her father was just black. There was nothing exciting about it because he's not like he's not mixed up or anything. So, and she ended up being one of three kids, but the blackest of them all. So everybody had a little bit of color, and she was so um growing up, she had this almost reverence for my father, and I later on found out that a lot of it was because she wanted me to have certain features. Like she wanted me to be um, lighter than her. She wanted me to have nice hair. She
Mm-hmm.
just wanted me to not look like her so that I wouldn't have the same struggles as her
Mm-hmm.
and I would be considered beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting, um, like growing up with her and seeing those things and like noticing that, there would be certain features that she'd not be proud of, or she would um kind of undermine certain features of her that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point I had a very open and honest conversation with her and just like, listen, I'm happy with everything black about me. I'm very happy that my hair isn't as straight as my father's. I'm very happy with what I have. And I'm happy with your contributions. Like, the only thing is that I wish I was darker. She's just like,
Yeah.
so it was
I
very,
struggled with that too. I understand completely. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
And
not Canadian, so I get it. Yeah.
it was weird because it never dawned on me.
Mm-hmm.
But us having that conversation, I was mentioning to you that to this day, she's just like, did you really mean what you said when you said that your your favorite features are? Because she kept bringing up, oh, like you have your father's nose, and I'm just like, woman.
Yeah. So, what did you eventually tell her? Remember? Can you share with us exactly what you told her about she's beautiful, right? You had to remind her,
Yeah,
like
and just like
specifically.
I'm just like, your features are beautiful. I am very happy
Mm-hmm.
for whatever you passed down. I have a very
Beautiful.
beautiful history. Something that is very unique to me. It was a little bit hard growing up because she's very, very in tune with that maroon side. So I get sick and she's like crushing up plants and I'm like, lady.
She's a natural healer, y'all. She's a
Is.
natural healer.
She is, and I appreciate it now as an adult, but trust me, back then it was just like constantly, I need to go to the hospital. I don't want.
You're like, I need a second opinion.
Yes. So, back then, but like, it has turned into this very beautiful thing, and I really, really appreciate like her and her background and everything that it is. No, I chose to that representation of the Black figure is actually my mother. And I chose to put her in lace because of the delicate situation. Now, if you meet my mother, she's the roughest person in life.
Yeah, she's a survivor.
She was in survival mode her entire life. So it's just like, I have to come in and go, oh no, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And because of this, I realized that it's such a delicate situation. So I decided to incorporate the lace and everything. And then it's everything that is beautiful to me in one piece.
I love that. I love that. And just hearing your background story and your personal experiences, this might be one of my favorite pieces of your entire collection. And can I just ask, have you shown your mother this piece? Talk to her about it?
No, I haven't. I promised her a painting a really long time ago of her. But I don't believe. First of all, I tend not to show my mother my art pieces until like they're sold because she wants everything.
Yeah.
So I haven't shown her. I haven't told her the story as yet. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation when that pops up.
Yeah, fingers crossed that piece gets sold soon, and then you can have this amazing conversation with her, and I'm sure that'll bring elements of healing to your relationship with her even more.
Yeah.
Love that. Sometimes we just need to be told that we're beautiful. I love that, Krystal.
I agree.
Okay, let's move forward to other pieces in the acrylic collection regarding the Ghetto Gal Almighty series. We're going to talk respectability politics in regards to that series where you reference real life dancehall figures like Goody Plum and Desha Rapers. These sort of culture curators, so to speak, have stayed true to themselves in standing firmly behind their passion and love for unlimited creativity. Krystal, can you share with us some insight into the dancehall community in Jamaica? And I believe there's 3 paintings in this series. This is the first one. Maybe we'll show slides of the second and the third one. But yes, Krystal, if you can continue and speak to us, give us some insight on the dance hall community in Jamaica. Oh, you muted, Krystal. You're muted. Zoom, right? This is Zoom life. Can we unmute her? Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Gotcha.
Okay. So this series is one of my favorites ever, all-time favorite. And it's also coming from a slightly more personal aspect because I grew up in the inner city, and that is where I started doing art. So it involved a lot of people watching, and the women that were around me. You'd be in the dance as young as like I'd be inside my house, and there was literally a dance keeping on the street right outside. So I didn't. My mother would kill me if I went out. I would just be at the gate, like watching everything.
Yeah.
So I got engrossed in this culture. It's very much a part of like me and growing up.
Of course.
But I honestly feel like dancehall, culture is like the underbelly of Jamaica, but it's where everything starts
Mm-hmm.
in terms of culture, in terms of fashion. Like if you want to see fashion, you go to these places,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a place of expression.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, yeah, you can dwell on the negativities, but I also feel like it's a place of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's the women that carry it off, and maybe a little bit biased. But these are the people who are participating all the time. So, and I always say this, especially to my friends, they can relate to it. And I say, if I can have the confidence of a Jamaican ghetto girl, I feel like I can do anything in this life.
Straight up, I feel the same way. I agree.
Because like the things I see happen, and they're proud. They own it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something to be admired. So I really wanted them to be the subject, and I really wanted to like highlight that power, because I don't feel like it is. There are elements of this society that's taken and appropriated, and then it becomes better because it's not Stacian, and it's not the Deshas that are perpetuating these things. So I really wanted to capture, highlight, and glorify these women,
Mm-hmm.
because in a society that's telling them to be proper and telling them all of these things that
Mm-hmm.
they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
like their hypersexuality is wrong.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be um who says you're supposed to be wearing blue hair or
Mm-hmm.
orange hair? That's not right. So in
Mm-hmm.
a society that's telling them that all of these things are wrong, they're still going out doing it, and they're very proud about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted to capture that. And at the end of the day, even though that this even though this is the culture, they're still ordinary people. They're mothers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sisters. They're people who are contributing to society still. So
Yeah, you're drawing us in. You're drawing us in to take a look at their humanity, at the parts of them that society doesn't recognize, and those parts are equally as important because we can all relate to them. It's what makes us all human. We're all mothers and daughters and sisters and cousins and family and loved ones, and it's so important that we remember that about people who don't meet the status quo and all that. Um, I love I love the one that was just on. I love this one too with the star on her breast there. It's just kind of like this big element of heroine energy and triumphant celebration. And it's kind of like you're implying superhero status to them, you know, like they just look like the modest Avenger crew that I've ever seen. Can you tell us more about their fan base? Do they have a big fan base in Jamaica, Toronto, the States, or uh, how?
and so the surprising thing about these people is that they have a huge fan base,
You see?
especially internationally. So the highbrows of Jamaican society may frown on them. However, these are the people that are championing Jamaican culture, that are doing
Exactly.
so much for the country to be seen, but they're just not being recognized.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, it's kind of like the Bob Marley reference that I spoke about a few minutes back. Like he's championing Jamaica and he's introducing this incredible culture to the world on a global scale. But it's like, you know, the governing class in Jamaica is not really accepting of him. But these are the people that make Jamaica memorable. Now we're going to take a slight break from the back and forth conversation and reference another artist that we touched on in the curatorial statement. And we're going to shift gears into how the themes that Wangechi Mutu explores, they really touch a lot on the themes of Krystal's next set of work, which are her drawings. This drawing here was made by Wangechi Mutu. She was born in 1972 in Nairobi, Kenya. And I think I told you yesterday on the phone, Krystal, that my mom immigrated here from Nairobi, Kenya when she was 30. And I remember being in high school when Wangechi Mutu came to the AGO downtown here in Toronto. And I took a field trip with my art class to see her her exhibit at the AGO, and I just connected with her work instantly. And I'm sure it was a big connection process for me because she is from Nairobi, Kenya. But yeah, I just wanted to share that little piece because I remember I first got Facebook when I was like 17, and I changed my first Facebook profile was Wangechi Mutu pregnant, standing with these sculptures that were like these really tall chairs. So I'm so glad that we get to cover her. She translates the brokenness of post colonial society and politics through utilizing ideas from the human body, machines, pornography, animals, and plants, which add to the complexity of her work. Her well known sculptures and collages also explore themes of cultural identity, contemporary African politics, and the reality of females being known across history to bear the weight of whatever is not acceptable in that society, which is a very common theme in Krystal's collections of drawings we're about to explore. On the screen, we were able to see a drawing from Wangechi's private sketchbook, which was included in the thoughtfully illustrated survey textbook called Drawing People, the Human Figure in Contemporary Art, and that was written by artist and author Roger Malbert, who is also Canadian. Wangechi has shared a very fitting quote that applies to Krystal's drawings as well, which goes, "Females carry the marks, language, and nuances of their culture more than the male. Anything that is desired or despised is always placed on the female body." And now, Krystal, can you talk to us about how your collection, your body of drawings in this exhibit address and explore the realities of the female gender and what exactly it means to be a woman in this world?
So first off, I must say that this is the first time I've ever shown my drawings. It, it's usually something I keep to myself. And it's more like social commentary. So I'll see something happening and I don't like it. But instead of painting something, I'll just draw something quickly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you probably realize by now most of my drawings are of women. And I feel like I'm very comfortable with that subject. So seeing that I've been one all my life, I've been around a lot of women, and as I say, I've been around a lot of women who are from the inner city. I've noticed like going through certain struggles. You hear the stories, and I really wanted to capture a lot of that. Now, Jamaica is a hypersexual culture. And I was explaining it to you yesterday, Lelu, that a lot of like study or contemplation doesn't go into why the culture is that way. And I was also telling you the story of like I ended up traveling across the Caribbean to basically just learn because I've traveled everywhere. I went as far as Russia and ended up meeting the president, which is an odd story. But and then coming back home, and I'm just like, I've been to all of these places. I never explored my own backyard. So I spent, I think, 3 months just traveling across the Caribbean and learning different things. And one of the things that I learned was that Jamaica was actually a stud farm back in the colonial days, where they would breed enslaved Africans to be shipped all over the Caribbean. So the unit of the family broke down. There wasn't really any emphasis on like sticking together because what's the point of sticking together when your kids are going to be sold off?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So bringing that back in, you can see that in a culture where it's very, very just hypersexual. Um, and as you said, the people that carry this burden are the women,
Mm-hmm.
where sex is seen as sexuality is seen as like and just another attribute. So you will find women being very proud and open about their sexuality, and then facing backlash because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to capitalize on that and to tell like a bit of those stories. For example, um, there is a piece called Kaki Tegereg,
Mm-hmm.
which is just speaking about it means somebody who is typically a woman who is good in bed, and that is oftentimes a title that's associated with Jamaican women, regardless of their personalities, regardless of them as people. It's just that as long as you bear that title, especially within the Caribbean region, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that's associated with you. There's that stigma um, that is very hard to escape. So I really wanted to incorporate a lot of that. Also, a bit of culture. For example, there's a piece called Stupies
Mm-hmm.
that's about a very known form of black magic or obia, as Jamaicans call it, where the woman ties the man so that she can keep him forever and ever, and it's usually done in the form of Stupies.
Mm-hmm.
So there are bits and pieces of cultural norms scattered throughout these drawings, as well as social and current events.
Mm-hmm. That is so interesting. I don't think we were able to throw up any slides of your drawings, but again, everyone just stand by for virtual programming because they're just incredible to see up close and personal in person here at the gallery. So we'll just stand by on how that's going to go. And now I'm going to move on to my brother's keeper. It is also a vinyl wall peel installation currently right now at PAMA, which is the Peel Art Gallery Museum and Archives, a gallery located in Brampton, Ontario. And it's like huge, it's on the wall, but we have the original right here at Band, and it's also for sale. It's a 16 by 20-inch acrylic on canvas. It's here for display, it's also here for sale. And again, virtual programming to follow. And Krystal, if you can just share with us a few words about this. This was also one of my favorite pieces from our conversation yesterday.
So this piece was also personal because it was during the time of the Black Lives Matter movement that this concept came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't just Black Lives Matter, it was also this entire year basically, where it's just like the pandemic, Black Lives Matter movement,
Mm-hmm.
there's SARS, there's also still issues within the Caribbean in terms of like class
Mm-hmm.
and colorism. And I remember thinking the just being very, very exhausted,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where I felt like every day you got up and there was just something else, something new.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, this is tiring. And I'm just like, it shouldn't be this tiring to exist as a Black person. And my main thought, I remember at one point, my main thought was just, is there any place that's safe to be Black?
Mm-hmm.
Conflicts in Africa, you have conflicts in the Caribbean, you have these things just wearing you down. And at that point, I someone reached out to me from um, Manitoulin Island and asked me if I could come visit because they're just like, we feel like now is a time where we need to be together as Black
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
or share in that comfort. And I took the opportunity because I was just locked in this apartment, in this box,
Mm-hmm.
constantly with the news, and I ended up leaving. But also being on the reserve, I also learned of what happens or has happened within the Aboriginal community here in Canada as well. And it was just almost, I don't want to say trauma bonding, but that understanding and that compassion. And I realized that that's what's needed within the community, compassion. And there needs to be a lot of healing with all this trauma. Like, I feel like the Black experience is just constantly going through something one after the other, even if it's not you personally, but seeing people that look like you. So for this piece, I really just wanted to show compassion, show solidarity, and, you know, basically mark yourself,
Go ahead.
basically mark yourself as an ally where, you know, I feel what you're feeling. I understand, and I'm here for you.
Exactly. And I think you did mention they're just two androgynous beings, um, channeling the energy of platonic love and I got you type of thing. So
Pretty much.
thank you so much for that. And again, that is at PAMA right now as a vinyl wall peel installation. And sorry, I was only getting one message from Claudia. I wasn't getting the other, but Karen confirmed with me In the Shadows was sold, right? I think you mentioned that earlier. So the piece that we touched on, Krystal, the piece that we touched on that was inspired by your mother, Karen gave me the heads up.
Yes, it has been sold. It was the first piece to be sold.
It has been sold, so you can have that conversation with your mom now. And you're on mute now. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Okay.
That is wonderful news. I plan to. It's yeah.
It's too much emotion, I know. Anyways, Krystal, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation. I found it so fruitful and I learned so much, and it really gave me a closer, I feel like personally like attached to your work now because of this talk. So thank you so much for having it. We're gonna wrap up now. I'm gonna introduce Karen. She is the director of the Band Gallery, and she's gonna say a short commentary. We may do some questions and answers, a Q&A. We may do that. I'm not sure, but I'm passing the baton on to Karen now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lelu. Thank you for jumping in. You didn't mention that you're one of our curatorial residents, and
I forgot to introduce myself. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll do that. So we've recently started a program to just allow emerging curators to test their chops, to do what Lelu just did, which was dive in, have a conversation with an artist, review the work, do some research, references within the art historical context, both historically and contemporary. I think the references here were very much contemporary references, but it just gives a sense of the work that Krystal's doing and where it sits within other peer group that are, in this case, all Black artists. So thank you for doing such a great job. And I want to just quickly say that the work is for sale, but we know that with COVID, I know there's people on this call from Jamaica knowing Krystal's fan club that rolls global. So unfortunately for you all, you wouldn't be able to come and see it physically anyway. So if there's an interest in inquiries about sale, please email us at info@bandgallery.com. We can arrange some virtual viewings. We are willing to ship work wherever you wish to have it sent if you want to purchase. We also are going to probably do some kind of an online gallery. We'll see about that because of the shutdown. They're saying it's 28 days, but if it lasts longer, this show will likely be extended into January, so we won't close it in December because of the limitations on people visiting. So if you're in the GTA and you were planning to come by, I know our spike for visits has gone up since the announcement yesterday. So we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible later today after this talk ends and tomorrow. Thanks to Claudia for taking the lead and organizing us. She's become an operations queen. So thank her very much for the logistics and technical back and also just the coaching that assists with Lelu kind of, figure out this framework. Krystal, it's always about the artist. So we thank you for trusting us to show your work. And as mentioned, you're also in the PAMA exhibition. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what heights you go to because you're extremely talented. And we're very privileged to have your work here when we're being voted the best independent gallery in the city. It's a good bookend. I know Kepra, I can't see who else is on the band team who's on the call, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Kepra, and if there's band board members that I can't see, thank the rest of the team for their work and their volunteerism. Diego's here somewhere in the house, who's also a volunteer that helped with mounting the show. Thank everybody for taking the time on your Saturday afternoon to have this conversation with us or to participate in it. I don't see any questions. I don't know if Claudia or Lelu do. But if there are questions or comments, I'll throw them through and then we'll just take a few of those and then we will say.
I'd like to play the slideshow of all Krystal's work so you can also get to see some of her drawings that we didn't pull up. So I'll play that to end.
Yes, thank you to RBC for supporting this programming. I'm so glad we did that slideshow because I really wanted everybody to see your drawings. I love your drawings.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.